Welcome video design students. In this video we're going to place some clips into the timeline to match up the finished JPop commercial. We're also going to place the soundtrack into the timeline and match it to the existing soundtrack. And we're going to deal with a few issues specific to this project. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is place the soundtrack in here and match up the music to this existing music. One thing you need to know, first of all, about the existing soundtrack compared to the soundtrack in the bin is that the existing soundtrack has been edited for the commercial. But that's okay, we can get close enough. So let's start by finding the soundtrack in the project bin. You could get back to the Master Project Bin tab by clicking these two arrows here and selecting the project bin here. This is the project bin, and then listed here are the different bins or folders that contain different things. So if we click this master one, it'll take us back to the top level. Here is the music bin, so we're going to open this one up. Here is the music, and you don't know which one of these is which, so to check them, if you double click on a track, it'll bring it up in your source monitor, and you can check and see which one it is. That sounds like it might be the one. Let's check this one. That's definitely not it. So we're going to click this track and drag it down and drop it into audio track 2. Now if we zoom out using our zoom slider down here at the bottom, you can clearly see that this track is much longer than this track. It has been edited. So the first thing we need to do is match it up. And you can also see that here and here are probably about where they need to match. So let's move our time slider to this first peak right here, and then we're going to shorten this track and begin to move it over. Now if you can't see the waveform in your audio track, simply zoom in on it using the vertical zoom slider over here on the right hand side. If you need more room to see what you're doing, then you can hover here on this divider and make the audio tracks take up more space. So now I'm going to click this audio track and drag it back, and you can see it snapping, and it looks like this is pretty close right here. Now unfortunately you can't see the track when you're moving it, but you can kind of just drag it and see it snap. Now I'm going to zoom in some more, see how closely that matches up, and I think that's about as close as I can get. Now there's a couple of things you can do to match it up closer if you're having trouble making it match. You can nudge a track or a clip in the timeline by holding down Alt and using your left or right arrow keys with the track selected, and that nudges it forwards and backwards one frame. But sometimes this doesn't work for audio tracks because audio uses different units than video. So when moving audio clips in Premiere, we're snapping to frames, which is not the same thing. And sometimes we need to line up using audio units because it's a smaller adjustment. So to do that, we can zoom way in. To switch to audio units, click on this little hamburger menu here in the Sequence tab and select Show Audio Units, and that shows audio units, which are different as we said. Now we can move the time slider in smaller increments, and we can zoom way in, and we can nudge the clip in audio units. And we can check this in a couple of different places and see if we're good. And I think that's about as close as we're going to get. But we can switch back to frames by clicking on the Sequence hamburger menu and unchecking Show Audio Units. And I'm going to unmute this track here because I had it muted. Then I'm going to make sure that I make this track the same length by dragging the end there. And now we can check these two by playing them together and see how they match. Okay, so I have mine matched exactly. So now that we have the audio tracks matched up, I'm going to mute the original audio track by clicking this little button here, M. There are other buttons here. This stands for solo, and this one stands for voiceover record. You probably never want to push this one. As soon as you do, it starts recording from your microphone. So now let's place a couple of video clips. I'm going to drag this divider down to give myself more room to see my second audio track. And then I'm going to scroll back and get close to this first marker. Now we toggled the visibility of this track. It's invisible. I've hidden it, so I'm going to click the visibility button and make it visible again. So we're looking for a clip where this little boy is eating the last bit of his popsicle. So I'm going to go to my bin, click the two arrows, go to the master, bin, and click scenes. And then I'm going to find boy, and I'm going to move my mouse back and forth over these to see if I can find the one that I need. I can zoom in on them by clicking this zoom slider here. You can also change the visibility from icons to a list if you click this button here. So if you're not in icons, click that button. Clearly, this is not the track because you can see he has a lot of popsicle here. This looks like it might be the one, so I'm going to double click it, bring it up in the source monitor, and find where it might match up. I've already used it here. I'm going to go ahead and clear. I'm right clicking on the timeline to clear my in-out points. I'm going to find the place where I think it might match up. You can see here that he's looking at the last bit of his popsicle, so I'm going to see if I can find something that looks similar. Using my arrow keys to nudge back and forth, I'm going to set my in point. And then I'm going to scroll forward to where, and here it looks like he has finished. He's in the process of chewing, and he sees the girl. So we're going to scroll forward here in the source monitor and find something that looks similar. That looks pretty similar. So I'm going to push O for out point. And then I'm going to click my left mouse button and drag this into the timeline and snap it to the end. Make sure you have snaps turned on right here, snap timeline. Now you can clearly see that this clip is twice as long as it should be. That is because all of these clips are in this project are in slow motion for some reason. So to fix this, we're going to right click on the clip and select speed duration, and we're going to change this to 200%. And that brings it almost where it needs to be. I'm going to click and see if I can get it closer by maybe making it 210. Maybe even like 230. Then I'm going to play it to see if it looks good. Now, because this clip is on top of this clip, this is the one I'm going to see. All right, so that still looks good. So now we need the one where he is, and what I'm seeing right now is the original clip. Now we need the one where the camera is panning from left to right, showing him from the back. So we're going to go back to the, well actually I think we stay in the boy bin here. There it is. Now we need to find the one where we see what's going. This girl here never moves up. So here you can see clearly that she is up. So that's not it. So it must be this one. And as you can see, I've set my in-out points already because I've done this already. You just find a place where it's moving. Remember, we always cut on the action. And it doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to match up exactly. I'm going to move my slider out of the way so it doesn't, snapping doesn't get in the way. And snap it into place. And then I'm going to right click and change its speed duration by 230. Now see, that's too fast. So I'm going to right click and make it 200. And that's still too fast. So I'm going to right click and make it 150. That looks about right. And let's see how that looks. And so the next clip would be the girl with her bucket. And we're going to click on the two arrows, and we're going to go find the girl bin. And here you can see that this volleyball comes into the frame at the beginning of the clip, and she slams her bucket down. So we need to find one where she slams her bucket down. I'm going to double click this one. It looks like this is the one, because again, I've already done this. You find the place where the volleyball comes into the clip, and then end where she slams her bucket down. Drag that into the timeline, snap it into place. You can see it's too long, so we're going to adjust the speed. I'll try 200. That seems to be a little too short, so I'm just going to drag this forward until it snaps to my marker. See if it works. That works just fine. So sometimes you have to adjust the speed, and sometimes you can just drag the clip forward or backwards. Sometimes you might have to drag it forward and then drag it backwards if you need to transition where you stopped. So the next clip now is the little boy leaning to the left a little bit and blinking. So I'm going to go back to the boy bin. And I think this is the same clip that we used in the beginning here. I'm going to double click it and see if there's a spot where he just sort of leans to the left. He's not leaning. I could use that. Let's see if there's another one. This must be the one I used, because see, he's just leaning a little bit here. So I'm going to drag that in here. And got to speed this up now. Remember? No. This one we know he's got to lean, so that is where we're going to make sure it stays, and I'm going to drag this one back, and I'm going to see how that looks. Okay, so that's good enough. The next one is where he reaches for the sticks. Now notice he only has one stick here, and there's no popsicle on his stick. So we're going to scroll down and find a clip where he does that. Here's one. Okay, he's reaching with one hand. Here's one. He's reaching with two hands. That's not what he does. So this has to be the one. But he has popsicle on his stick. The reason he has popsicle on his stick here and not here is because they digitally removed it. So let's find the piece, which is right here, where he reaches down and touches the log. And that's the part where we want. We need to adjust the speed, and that fixes it. And let's see what we have. So, and you just keep going like that until you get all the clips in there. So there are some adjustments you need to make to some of these clips and some effects you need to apply. Those things are covered in subsequent videos. So keep placing clips in the timeline. Try to come as close as you can to what you see in the original, and I'll see you in the next video.